Hey, everybody. John Gums here, Dakota Grappler going live. We're going to have a fun night tonight talking wrestling as people start getting on here. Now, this, again, for those coming on Facebook, this is also on YouTube. You should have an opportunity to, watch this later if you want. So glad that wrestling's going in this cold. These are some, I'd say, some trendsetters. These guys are getting programs going again. You got both Matt and Toby here. You can see them on the screen. They're going to be kind of the powerhouse coming out of Sioux Falls for D2 wrestling. I've been excited to see what happens down there, and we're going to get some talking going and see how the progress is coming along for these guys getting their programs kind of settled in that area. The East River, you have an opportunity to start something great there. So I'm hoping you can use that as one of your tools. So I'll start right away. I guess if you guys don't know me, I'm John Gums. I'm owner and editor of Dakota Grappler. I do a preseason book for high school wrestling, and then I'm basically out here to promote sport. We do basically anything wrestling-wise just to make sure high schoolers and college guys get the publicity they need. And so first I'll start with you, Toby. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody out there, and I'll have you answer one question of mine. Tell them where you grew up also with your intro.
Toby Bryant, USF Women's Wrestling. We're in about month 3.5. So it's been great to get women's wrestling in the Sioux Falls area and South Dakota and the 5-6 surrounding states. I grew up in Pierre, South Dakota. So obviously the Pierre Governors have had quite a decade of wrestling, and kind of seeing my dad coached out there for 30, 40 years. And so brother and I had the luxury of growing up with the great outdoors and loved hunting and fishing, and then we're wrestlers out there and football and baseball guys. So yeah, it's been great, and look forward to next fall when these women get on campus and kind of pioneer this thing, and is the only NCAA school in the state of South Dakota. And I know Minot has the women up there, the NCAA, but so yeah, we'll probably be meeting up with them sometime down the road.
That is awesome. Definitely got a family roots. I did look up, what's interesting as I start making the promos and stuff, and I was trying to find a college picture of you. I found one of the old books from Jackrabbits, and you always had a mean face. So it was almost like I couldn't put you, or I found your brother first, actually. Yeah. And then the other one was a mean face with a nice crew cut,
Yep.
And then I did find a good one of Matt, one of his Northern pictures of him, two-time national champion for Northern D2. And so it was good to have Matt on here. In fact, I remember watching you in the late, basically about 2010-ish. And I very enjoyed you kicking some people's butt for Northern State. I was kind of funny. Northern, for me, when I first got to know them, I was coaching at Valley City State, but that was in the 90s. And so we'd go down to Northern, and they were always pretty tough back then too. But Matt, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us again, let's have you also where you grew up.
Yeah, I'm Matt Meuleners. I'm the head men's wrestling coach at University of Sioux Falls. Grew up in Young America, Minnesota, so a small town about 50 miles west of the Twin Cities. Grew up on a farm, which was great. My dad and brother, they're still back home running the farm, and they running hogs and corn. And it's, I grew up really lucky to grow up on a farm, learning like the work ethic that being on a farm teaches you, and a greater appreciation for, what they do. Makes me really grateful for what I'm doing as a coach, where I don't, have to grind every day like they do. So,
well, I thought you'd come back with a tan or stuff because you're out in California for a while. Tell us first a little bit about your experience out in California coaching.
It was great. It wasn't planned to be that short. Me and my wife, we had planned to be out there for 4 or 5 years. I went out to Cal State because they had some new scholarship opportunities where they were going to be really competitive. And we did a really good job recruiting. We brought in 7 state placers, and I think our lineup last year only had 4 guys that placed in the state tournament. So we were raising the bar of what we were bringing in talent wise. And we were really excited about it, but I couldn't, when USF opened up, I couldn't pass it up being this close to home and being in the city of Sioux Falls and what it has for opportunities for, my wife to have a job and work. And, she's from the same hometown as I am. So her, being close to family was, win-win for both of us.
Oh yeah. The dream of being close to family and working. That's good. It's cool. And again, Bill popped in here down the bottom. Bill, why don't you introduce yourself to these guys?
Yeah, I'm Bill Holton, obviously coming at you from central North Dakota here in the middle of a lot of snow and cold today, but it's great to be able to talk about wrestling. I obviously am familiar with both of you guys, and I'm at the Barnett Center several times a year and get to see Matt's big mural on the wall, and it's good to have him here. So,
hey,
yeah,
I gotta add, I'm on the wall too, but I'm a mat tapper for the NCAA tournament was down in Sioux Falls. I think it was Gomez's match, and I was I was a mat tapper that day, so that's my claim to fame.
I will have to look for that one, and I got another one I can look at. So it's good.
I remember Toby all those years at Aberdeen Central and developing kind of a program there. I remember when their kids program really started to take off, and everybody was, how much work that takes, and you were a big part of that, and then people give you a lot of credit for that in Aberdeen. Yes.
Yeah, and also won the Rotary twice too. So the North Dakota, I got to put that out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, Aberdeen is a great town too for wrestling. They getting back Northern State was a big, that wasn't that many years ago, Matt, that you can kind of remember that, where they were trying to eliminate the program, and getting it back was huge for the state of South Dakota. Anything you guys want to talk about that first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah, it's obviously exciting, and it's great to see them doing well. As an alum and as a competitor now, I'm excited to go there and wrestle them. Rocky does a great job. Rocky was the guy that recruited me to Northern. That was his territory was Minnesota, and Coach Tim handled North and South Dakota and some other places. But yeah, Rocky recruited me, so I'm really excited to go and compete against those guys. And it's great to see them thriving. Like, the potential was always there. I felt like, even when I was there, we had great individuals. It was just, we had guys that couldn't get out of the region. Funny story. We had a guy, Chad Gibson. I lived with Chad for a year. I was at the national tournament, and a coach from another school is like, "Hey, where's your 84 pounder?" And I was like, "He didn't get out of the region." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, we had 6 returning national qualifiers in our region, and 4 of them have been All-Americans before. Like, and he was the 7 seed, like, and he beat their guy who was a region champion at the Midwest Classic. So it was just, we had good guys. It was just, the region's so tough, but yeah, it's just really cool to see that Northern's thriving right now.
When you look back in that story and the phone lines that took off that day, when they, in what Northern did, and I was, kind of privy to some of the conversations of alumni and people, and you're not touching this thing, trust me, in the wrestling world just kind of stepped up, and within hours money came in and say, it's not a money issue. There's something bigger here. When you look at the impact Northern State has, when you talk about coaching trees and the way it infiltrates our public schools, I can sit and list here for 20 minutes names that have come out of that, the School of Education that was started in Northern State when it was the college, Northern State College, and then the university, and just what that has impacted our state. And I mean, and the people that understand this conversation know the impact and the names that are out there. It's a pretty special place up there.
Yep. I tell you what, I was privy to some of those conversations right away, and the vibe was very frustrating, but yet they said, guess what? We're going to have enough fire to get this going. It was a positive thing. It was more of a positive every meeting that I was involved with, and just trying to get it out there that say, guess what? We're going to save this program and get it going. So that's a tribute to all those Northern alums. Really, it was. Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, I'll give it just a little bit on this side. So, I was a parent of a graduate that was going to graduate in 2016. So that, 15, we're looking for a place to go, and Billy took a few visits other places for sure. But I told him right off the bat, I said, hey, this is just somewhere to think about. And maybe it was a little bit of, maybe it's a place to go and build something. Maybe there's a good, maybe that'll be a good spot. Now, of course, it wasn't the right place at first, right? Until he went, right? Until he visited, and he went, took 2 teammates with him from high school, and they were really the first recruiting class that Rocky had. So it was kind of fun. So it was good to see, it was kind of, we saw it right from the start of that era, right?
Yeah.
and still involved today. You know, Billy's on staff, and so they're still working pretty hard today.
Yeah.
Very proud of what they have.
Yeah.
I thought about getting Gomez on here, but you know, I give him a hard time. He's probably the worst golfer, but you know, some of those last guys, we go to the golf tournament, and I missed it this last year, but always fun, great group and stuff, and I met a lot of those guys from Redfield. For some reason, they bring up a crowd and always bring some crazy food up there, and aren't afraid to have an adult beverage with anybody.
Yep.
But no, I tell you what, do you remember, Matt? I'll ask you a question, you know, how you're recruited and stuff to go to Northern. Were you looked at going other places?
Yeah, Northern came in really late. I applied to Northern when I was in high school. So what I kind of did is I applied to every school that had wrestling. Every school that was within 5 or 6 hours of me that had wrestling, I was applying to. And yeah, Rocky saw me at the state tournament and called me the next week. And then we, you know, started talking, and I visited. My top 4 would have been Northern, Southwest State, Luther in Iowa, and then Buena Vista in Iowa. I did do a visit to St. Cloud State. I had a coach that wrestled there and he was the MVP of the team in the 80s one year, but I knew I didn't want to go to St. Cloud. I knew it was a little too close to home and a little bit bigger than what I wanted. And yeah, honestly, my visit, I just fit in really good with the guys there. You know, before going on my visit, I was pretty close to going to Luther. I'd visited there a couple of times and had a good relationship with Coach Mitchell. And they had a good track record of developing big guys. At the time, they had the number 1 guy at 197 on their team, and their heavyweight was ranked like 8th or 9th in the country. He was pretty good. So I really liked Luther, but I didn't fit in very well with the guys there, like I did at Northern. So it was pretty easy decision. You know, I looked at it a little differently, I think, because I was like, well, who am I going to spend the next 4 or 5 years with? I'm not going to hang out with the coach the whole day. You know, like I'll hang out with them. Like I'll see him for a couple hours, but I'm not going to spend, you know, the rest of the day with him. I got to like the guys I'm going to be around. And that was at Northern. So it was the right choice. And obviously I had a great experience and did well. Got a lot better at wrestling. So it was, it was great.
Throw us out a few names that kept you there, you know, roommates and stuff like that, or as you wrestle with in the room.
Chad Gibson, Bo Vogel, I lived with him for a year. Zach Anderson, he was a manager for us, lived with Zach for a couple years. Donnie Bowden, Blake Lundgren were some of my close friends. Cale Cornerman, Chaz Welch, Chaz is the head coach at Watertown now. Chaz was a student coach for my first year. Chaz was pretty funny. Chaz, he taught me a good lesson that, you know, I shouldn't feel sorry for guys. Kind of got me in trouble with some other freshmen. One of my first practices, we went live. I was beating this freshman, another kid in my grade, and Chaz was like, let him up. And he just proceeded to have me, I think I took the kid down, 25 times or something in the go. And Chaz just said, just keep letting him up. Like, and then afterwards, he just kind of gave me a little do better talk about it. You know, don't feel bad for those guys. Like, you got to worry about yourself if you want to be great. And, you know, it stuck with me. So that was great. And I always remind him of that. So, yeah.
Now, when I was at Northern, did my grad assistantship, my first recruit was Chaz Welch. So that's my claim to fame. It's amazing the circle in wrestling, how we're all connected. And Chaz's dad was a college roommate of my mom's brother. And so he's from Rapsy Stevens. So I knew of him before Chaz, you know, and Chaz obviously was great for Stevens, wrestler too. But when Coach Tim was there, I was able to get Chaz as my first recruit before. And I was only there for a year. They had the 1-year program before I took the head job over at Aberdeen Central. But so anyways, just you bring up Chaz kind of, and here we are talking today, kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. No, the connections are strong. There's always are. I start looking through. So I went through about 4 or 5 different years of both SDSU and Northern State, you know, their rosters. And I started looking at the names, and you wouldn't believe the number of coaches that came out of those groups. You know, there are coaches in other states. You don't realize that it's not just South Dakota they affect Minnesota, Iowa. I think there's even one in Nevada out of that group, and they're all over the place. So that's that's a tribute to a good school and making people love the sport of wrestling, even at the college level, to be able to take it to there somewhere else. So I do have a question for you now. Toby, first, I know you're a women's coach, and it's the biggest thing happening in wrestling right now. You have a tough road ahead of you for one, that as these schools open up with girls wrestling, the girls that are good, you got to get to them, because there's a select crew yet, and you have to be able to build your program. With a lot of these schools opening, I think it's going to be tough to start to get those numbers. What are you doing to combat that? I know that you signed a Century Girl not too long ago.
Yeah, you probably heard this out there. It's kind of the Wild West right now, and it's amazing. You can have a student athlete on campus, and probably the time that they're there, there's 4 to 5 coaches contacting them that same day, just because the nature of numbers, right? So you are, it's a dog eat dog world a little bit, and trying to get them and get their timing down, because it's the fall and you want to get them to some nice weather, so home football game. Well, then, you only got till November 14th, because then they're in their practices. Now it's just, they're in practice mode and they're busy with their stuff and school. And so it was, it's a really busy 2.5, 3 months, but we got a lot of traction, had a lot of nice conversations. And one thing I talked a little bit about earlier, not in here, but before we got on the show, was the luxury of Fargo hosting the national tournament in July. I couldn't believe the number of girls from California and Texas and Washington that has been to Fargo, and they love the sunsets, they love the Midwest, they love the cornfields, things that they never left, the concrete jungle, so to say, where they live. And so I said, now, and I kind of selling point, I said, Sioux Falls is the Fargo of South Dakota. A lot of different similarities. And so, they got to, drive through Sioux Falls to get through a lot of different places, whether Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. So from the Dakota girls to, Wyoming. So I've been really encouraged by the excitement, their passion for the sport, their willingness to think differently outside the box and what they want to do, and their pathways after wrestling as a platform, and looking at their degrees of choice. And it's just really encouraging, because in the circles of coaching and seeing the men for how many years, the boys talking pathways for themselves, and the girls never really were talking in those terms within the sport. And now we're here today, seeing them having the similar, and it's they mimic each other. I mean, they both they both want the same thing. They're driven people. They're a lot of times are, intrinsically motivated individuals. They're going to be great leaders for us in whatever, industry they get part of. And so we're just really excited to have them here in Sioux Falls. And I think right now I've got 9 signed, and I've got 2 others we're just doing some paperwork on, but 11 really good conversations going that, we're going to have a full team. And if you've seen the graphic that came out by the NCAA, you have to get into Cedar Rapids March 3rd and 4th next year, you have to have 6 competitions and 9. No, wait, it's the other way. Sorry. 6 rostered wrestlers in 9 competitions.
Okay.
So, getting to Christmas, my goal was to have the roster numbers met, and just to get a team. And now it's a matter of building that schedule next year, including the Minots, the Jamestowns, those kind of things, and up and down the interstate. So I'm just really encouraged by that, and the women that are going to be serving us for, in the sport. So,
well, tell the people, we were talking beforehand too about, Sioux Falls and the campus itself, and, percentage of athletes and what it has to offer.
Yeah. Right in the center of town, right across the street from Sanford Hospital, the Baptist church just west of the school, is kind of where it started. It's 139 years. The campus has been here. So they went through the NAI years, and then had successful football and had successful runs in the basketballs as well. And we've got a lot of, offerings in the individual sports, the tennises, the swimmings, and so it's a NSIC school. And, last summer meetings, Pam Goller, AD, talked about in her summer meetings that NSIC schools are talking, there's 4 to 5 other women's programs that might be coming to, allow us to do the scheduling, kind of like Matt alluded to earlier, have the men's schedule that is kind of worked around the basketball schedules in the second half of the semester in January. So hopefully get to some of the similar templates.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And the 45% are student athletes about, right? Saying that. So that's a huge number in a college. I think that's for athletes. You like to be around other people that have those same goals. And I think that's a good thing. Definitely. Well, Matt, now how about you? How is your recruiting going and everything down there?
Yeah, it's going. It's a little bit slower here on the boys' end. I started at the end of September, and I didn't actually move from California to Sioux Falls. I got out here middle of October, but I was staying in a hotel. Took me a while to get established. But no, we brought a bunch of kids through in November. We got a couple kids committed. Few kids here are waiting on some decisions. It's going. I know I'm talking to the right kids as far as, where I'm at in the decision process. It's me in schools that are very highly competitive, because I'm trying to, knowing the conference I'm going into, I can't just, always, I'm going to fill a roster, but if I just fill a roster, that might be bad news. I want kids that can compete right away and are willing to compete. So it's been a little slow, but I think that's the nature of boys at this level too, is a lot of it's late. Like I was very late in my recruiting process. So I know things come March, April, May are going to pick up pretty quick for me. But we're in the right spots with a lot of kids. It's just a matter of moving them over the line and, getting them here on campus, being with the start of the season, like Toby said, it's hard to get them to campus in the, between tournaments and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So now itself, how's your facilities? What are they doing for you guys this year? Are you guys in the same building, in the same place?
Yeah, we're gonna share a room. The men's and women's program. We're not exactly dead set on where that's going to be yet. But we have some options as to where it's going to be and what we're going to get. But I know we're going to get a nice facility when we get it, because if you've ever been to Sioux Falls or been around our campus, you can see how well they treat the student athletes by, going to the football stadium, seeing our weight room. We have one of the biggest weight rooms in the conference, probably one of the top football facilities in the conference. And, our basketball gym, it may be small, but it is well taken care of. And it makes a great student athlete experience. So I know what we get for a facility is going to be well handled and well taken care of for our student athletes to get a first class experience.
Okay. Bill, why don't you fire away?
Yeah. Hey, I'm excited. We saw a lot of programs, men's and women's, that have been announced in the last couple of years. But to me, this was the most exciting. Maybe it's because it's the NSIC and it's just me, but I just think a D2 school with a lot of history and a lot of support behind athletics in a great city is just a huge add. So I will say that my knowledge of Sioux Falls or University of Sioux Falls has not been great until a few years ago. I've got a niece that is running cross country there and track. So, it became kind of more on my radar, too. So it seems like a, great university. And so we're just really excited to see what the girls and the men, are going to be doing there. So has there been, how about staffs? Have you got assistants hired or anything work in that direction?
Yeah, the university is doing a really good job supporting us in those infrastructures to do it the right way. We're both given a full-time assistant, and that'll come open here this spring. It'll start, budget year, I think in July or so, but it'll give us some time. We don't want to disrupt any programs right now and,
right,
let them finish out their campaign and their coaching with kids, and we don't affect other kids and those things. So we'll wait for this season to clear, and as openings happen, after the Division 1, 2, and 3 tournaments, and see what's out there. I mean, I think Sioux Falls is going to attract a family-orientated coaching staff, so to say, a Midwest, still get to the heart of kind of the 4-state area. If they're like Matt's situation, family's going to draw some people. So, we're going to find out. We're going to find out who can kind of match skill set and culture and climate and organizational design that we're looking for. And, having Matt's expertise with us as well. I think him and I are kicking the tires together and trying to put the best package together for forever those candidates that may come to surface. So.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to see who shows up on campus, both in the singlets and in the corners. So it'll be fun. Are you Matt? Are either one of you? Are you guys attending some tournaments now? Every weekend, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been hitting the road pretty hard lately. I went to Iowa, watched 2 tournaments the first weekend in December. Then I drove to Rapid City, went to the Rapid City Invite. Last weekend I did 2 of them over in Minnesota, and then I got more coming up here in end of this month in January. So it's been a lot of time on the road, but it's been good. It's been great seeing a lot of these kids and getting my eyes on more kids. The nature of wrestling and boys sports is a lot of bigger kids play football, so you don't see those kids at the fall tournaments, or they're a little harder to pick up on which kids are a little bit better athletes. Sometimes they wrestle part-time. So it's been good. It's been fun. And then Rapid City was a really good time because I got to connect with Donnie, the Aberdeen Central coach. I talked to Chaz, talked to Sean Lewis, wrestled at Northern. Just a bunch of coaches. I got to reconnect with them. Ray Rinksmeyer, he runs South Dakota USA. Yep, Hot Springs. Got to talk with him, and so it was exciting. It was good to see all those guys and reconnect with everyone. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of miles, but it's been fun.
Okay, are either one of you planning to come up to the Rumble by chance, Fargo?
Yes, I'll be up there. Yep.
Okay.
Look us up.
Yep, we'll be there. Definitely. No, had a quick question on some of your philosophy coming coaching, Toby. Now this is, you've definitely done high school. What kind of your philosophy were you coming in with the girls here?
Obviously it's the freestyle rules have changed. You guys know, decade to decade, it seems like they're always tweaking it. And, back when I did a little freestyle out of high school, there was a lot of just differentiation with the folk style, but now they've really done a good job kind of creating a freestyle atmosphere from the neutral position to really drive that point home. And so I've had to, obviously adapt to what's coming. And, coach, my biggest strength is coaching the neutral position where you're going to stay majority of the time. I'm pretty weak, obviously, in parterre and, some of the grounding and the point value, the shot clock that you get, those kind of things that strategically and tactically you're going to have to teach that to the women. But, I think at the end of the day, with the international scene, and, I just got them watching the World Cup, both the men's and the women's. The Ukrainian women were just phenomenal. The Chinese, I know our USA women are outstanding as well, but watching that semifinal round and final round, kind of putting in perspective, like, where's this going for our high school kids? What's the college scene going to look like, and getting the next kind of class of 23, 24 ready for the NCAA podium, and using the freestyle platform to get them there. How can I make them successful? So, I'm pretty comfortable with the neutral but position. It's just the parterre and the top work, the gut wrenches, the leg laces. I'm weak as circus lemonade. You know what I mean? So I have to get somebody in that knows that, and can help us out with some experience. But I think, on the women's side, the market's going to be saturated. I mean, there's going to be more programs than there are possible coaches, just because of the carousel that's kind of going to be going on this spring. So we'll see. Hopefully I get somebody that has more freestyle experience than I do. I think I bring a skill set, and kind of the CEO idea behind it, to build a program, and then have the leadership capacity. And I think the only reason I got the job is because I've raised 4 daughters at this point. So, I mean, I got
should be
4
worth
girls.
Something.
Yeah. So they're awesome. And, there's a kind of a love and a support there that I've had to learn along the way, because I grew up in a house with a brother, and it was a dad who kind of drive and chase ducks and geese and deer, and that's not something I have one daughter that likes to do that. She actually wrestles, so I got one that's kind of a little mini me, but the others have some different interests. So they play a lot of softball, and which is great. I was a big baseball guy too, so we chased them around the country with softball. But they're great kids, and that's all you ask for, healthy, great kids that way. But I think I'm just, learning the things I've learned from the home. You guys know in wrestling, the amount of support it takes from the home. And I always say, the number one ingredient is mama bear. If mama bear is not on board, it's just not going to happen. And not that us dads don't do a good job, and we can, bring in the nuances and the psychologies and you got to get stronger and faster, and we do X, Y, and Z. But having the mom supporting that there too, it's just so I'm encouraged by that and the families that we're recruiting and getting to know. It's pretty fun to see.
That is awesome. Definitely. How about you, Matt? Some of your philosophies coming in, building your program?
Yeah, like the one thing that I really focus on as a coach is each individual. If we have 10 individuals, we're going to have a strong team. So, I really hone in on what makes each wrestler that we bring in great. So even throughout the recruiting process, when I'm watching their matches, I'm taking notes like, okay, if I get this kid, we got to do X, Y, and Z. Or these are the areas where he's going to win matches. And how do we work with their strengths, and how do we, either improve their deficiencies or keep them out of their areas that they're deficient. That's a big focus of mine. And I like to do a lot of individualized training. That's part of what made me really good is, Coach Tim invested a ton of time into me one-on-one. Like we would wrestle. I mean, I had to get on his butt sometimes, but I would bother him and be like, hey, like we need to drill. Like, and we'd be drilling twice a week for most of the season, in the mornings, just, working on things, getting better. And that's, what my plan is. And, we've done it, I learned a lot at Nebraska. We did a lot of those at Nebraska to help, make kids better. And that's a big thing that we're going to do. And when we get the program going is individualize everything. I don't have we're going to do, this set of moves. The thing that I would say I think I'm pretty good at coaching is top and bottom. I've coached some really good kids on top, and I was really successful on top. I scored, a lot of my points were on top. And so I know the assistant I'm going to hire is going to be a little more dynamic than I was on our feet, so he can, relate to some of the better athletes on the team.
Yeah, definitely. I had a couple more I wrote down. Now tell me also now what did drive Nebraska? You brought that up. You're going to be in Nebraska. Tell us kind of the background of getting into the Nebraska program. How did you go from Northern to there?
Yeah, so I got super lucky. Coach Manning's one of his best friends from high school is Bob Hirsch, who's a Northern State alum, and he coached him. Got Coach Manning's number from Coach Hirsch and connected me. And like I was just looking for a place to train. So in the summer, I would go home and I'd work on the farm. I'd lift weights and I'd work on the farm. And I'd train with the local kid who wrestled at a D3 school. We'd wrestle once a week, but he grew up on a dairy farm, so he didn't have much. He didn't have much time to train. We could make it work once a week, but that was about it. And that wasn't good enough to what I wanted. And, Manning was, nice enough to have me down and let me work camps. And so I drove down there and I trained with them for a week, and they're like, hey, why don't you come back in, 2 weeks when our next week of camps comes? And I was like, all right. And then after that, they were like, hey, they must've liked me because they, gave me the opportunity to train there after I graduated, and then, moved me into the volunteer coaching spot. So it was great to learn and, get to train and do both. Kind of fell into it, but I got connected there through Coach Hirsch. And then I think, just my attitude, my work ethic at the workouts, because I showed up there pretty out of shape.
Did you get any chance to wrestle any international in your time, or any of that, when you had an opportunity? I know I don't remember exactly. I remember following you, and you were close to the Olympic ladder, kind of, you were getting into the trials and a couple things like that. Tell me about that experience. What did you do there?
Yeah. So I got to go overseas and wrestle 4 times. I went to Russia, Turkey, Cuba, and Iran. Oh, so I went overseas 4 different times. Got to compete over there. It was cool. It wasn't. I was very average on the international scene. I would say I was probably a little less than 500 in the United States. I was usually in the top 10. I made the trials three times. My first year out of college, I had a really good trials. I got 4th. And it was good, but it was interesting. It was, freestyle was not my strength. I was not a super dynamic scorer on my feet. And I wasn't the biggest heavyweight either. So with the push outs, it wasn't a lot of work for me to try and, score points on some of those guys. I wish it was folk style. I was pretty good on top. But it is what it is. That's life. And, but it was a good experience, and I learned a lot. You know, it helped me out coaching wise because I learned a lot of different techniques and ways to do things and see how things are done from a different lens. So I was able to take it all in and learn from it. So it was a really cool experience.
Okay, when you were in Nebraska, did you happen to wrestle any of the Jensen brothers out of Mobridge?
Yeah, I basically wrestled with Colin every day for 4 years. I wrestled with Colin quite a bit. I wrestled with David quite a bit. They were fun to work with. I talk to Colin. You know, I don't talk to him on the phone, but we probably text or, you know, Snapchat every week. I saw David the other weekend at Rapid City. He's going to be a doctor here soon. So that's really cool for him. And it was cool to see how much they grew and got better. You know, Colin, he came a long way in his wrestling. I mean, he was, you know, he's an example of a guy I think I helped get good on top. He was already pretty good on top when I got to him, but, you know, they were
pretty raw coming out of Mobridge.
Yeah, but Colin wrote out Kyle Snyder. Like, people, you know, kind of overlooked that. Like, he wrote him out for a whole period. He had him pretty tired, and we thought like they were trying to tell him to choose down, and he like shook his head at the coach and he chose neutral, and then it was floodgates kind of opened. It was but it was cool. Like, he put himself in a position to compete with an Olympic champ, and he got a lot better. And David the same way. You know, David, you know, he joined late actually the Nebraska team. He came to Nebraska and wasn't going to wrestle, and he, you know, got about November, December. He realized he was missing out on something and decided to come out. And he, you know, I think his second year we got him in the blood round of the Midlands. He was wrestling tough and he was competing really hard. And it was cool to see how much he grew as well in wrestling and got a lot better. And it just really stunk to see, you know, COVID ruin that 2020 nationals for him. You know, I think he was competing pretty well, and it'd have been fun to see what he could have done.
Right. It's kind of interesting how that is, because we talk about a small world. Kyle Jensen got me my first teaching job in Mobridge, South Dakota, and so their dad, and so I got to know the Jensen boys as they grew up, and so it's kind of interesting that South Dakota little touch in Nebraska always, you know, with Manning there and everything. For some reason, he finds those kind of, could you say, diamonds in the rough out of South Dakota many times. No, I saw the Jensen boys really improve, but I didn't know you were a big part of that. That's kind of cool. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I know that going back, a couple of the coaches, they don't know how they missed them, because it was SDSU coach. I talked to him going way back. Lyles. No, who was it? Not Lyles. Yeah, it was Lyles, right? Back at SDSU. And he once talked to me at they came up to the Bison Open, and I asked him if he looked at the Jensen brothers, and he goes, yeah, they came visited, but and then Nebraska, all of a sudden they're starting for him, and he goes, oh, I think I missed them. He kind of a little bit later. It's funny how that is.
Yeah,
they had a hard time drawing people for a while at SDSU for many years. You know, getting the bigger names, and you know, when they were D2, it was always NDSU and them, the big battle, and now it's back. You know, they're both D1 now. So, do you follow the college scene a little bit, both you guys? So who
I was actually just at the Nebraska South Dakota State duel.
Okay.
Last on Sunday. So it was cool. It was fun. Like, South Dakota State, they've done a really good job of getting fans to them. Like, when I was at Northern, we wrestled there, and we tied them once, and we lost the other time pretty. They beat us up pretty good one time, and then we lost a tight one another time. But just being there, like, it didn't seem like it was like that big of a stage when I was there in college, and like what it is now is really impressive. It's cool to see what they've done and the fan following they have, and the fans in South Dakota supporting them. And I'm excited about that, because I think, you know, you've seen Northern do it. They got a good support. Augustana always had pretty good support, and I think we're gonna, you know, follow suit and, you know, get good support here too.
I think that does make a big difference. I got my NDSU buys and stuff on. I don't know. They're facing SDSU in football in a couple weeks. Hoping you guys are rooting for the good team. No.
Hey, Matt, I got a question. Are you seeing any this, you know, it's probably an odd way to be recruiting, but are you seeing any athletes walking around campus that were former high school wrestlers that came out of high school and didn't wrestle right away, but could possibly be somebody that could wrestle for you in the future?
I haven't seen any yet. Well, I have seen one. I have seen one, but he's one of our top. I think he is our top pole vaulter here at school, and I have talked to the track coach, and he's like, let's table this conversation for next fall, and that was very fair. But yeah, we got a pole vaulter on campus I think he's a pretty tough kid, but he's the best pole vaulter, so I understand the dynamic there, but. I do got to do probably a little bit better job of walking around campus and trying to find more of those kids. But I'm sure there's a few, and I know there's been a couple kids that I've been talking to come in and transfer that have, there's from South Dakota, they're from Sioux Falls, and they've been just going to school elsewhere, and they got the itch to wrestle, and they kind of want to come home, and there's an opportunity there for those kids.
Yeah, Toby, I'll give you a tip. Just a little bit of the girls wrestling that I've been dealing with this year. Some of our best athletes and that are first year wrestlers are also really good pole vaulters. So when you get around in the spring a little bit, go to the track meets too. There's get some good pole vaulters that turn out to be pretty good wrestlers. So
I don't know if to say this politically correct or not, but if you haven't noticed, wrestlers are a little bit weird. And pole vaulters are really weird.
Yeah, that's.
Exactly I think there's I think there's a marriage there that you kind of want to keep in your back pocket and kind of maybe use.
They're actually clicking off in my mind as you say it.
Yeah,
one of them was my son, but that's one of the other ones.
I'm sorry.
Well, they're fearless. Like they're not afraid to throw their body and whatever atmosphere they land in or whatever event happens after the push, they're just gonna. See where they go. So it's kind of a cool dynamic there.
I've never made that connection, but you're probably right. I was a pole vaulter too. I always thought because I didn't have enough brain cells to know to do anything else smart.
Yeah.
But
a pole vaulter runs Dakota Grappler. I don't think that's by accident.
Well, I tell you what, it's you guys got big goals and dreams, and I'm hoping you guys do a great job at the programs there. No, so we're sitting at almost 45 minutes now. And so I'm going to break us off in a little thing, and then we'll talk a little bit of high school and college wrestling. But I do a thing called, rapid fire questions for you guys. And I would like to throw some questions at you. Now, I did throw in some questions that are different if you've seen this in the past. But you're going to see them across the bottom. Now, you can answer them honestly, or you can kid about them too, because some are kind of funny and other things. But I'll start with Toby, and then we'll go to Matt. Here's the very first question. What is it like to be coached by you if asked by one of your wrestlers, Toby?
I think that you're going to have a chance to get your hand raised. It might not be the most comfortable days of your life you'll have to go through, but I think you're going to be treated right, and we're going to do everything that we could possibly do. And the symbolism of getting your hand raised mean you're doing a lot of nice things off the mat and on the mat. And that's kind of my jam. And that's what makes me excited about the process with kids.
Okay. How about you, Matt?
I think it would be, they know they're going to have a close relationship with me, and they're, same as Toby, they're going to have an opportunity to get their hand raised. I want my kids to win really bad. And they know that. They know I care, and I want it really, really bad for them to have that success. So I think, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, good. What's next one? Let's go here. Oops, I clicked on the same one again. What is your college wrestling team?
University of Sioux Falls.
Oh, God. Do you follow a D1 program at all? Like, I'm an Iowa guy, and Bill, you want to tell me what yours is?
I am actually just a lover of the sport. There's a lot of them that I like. So I like a lot of, there's maybe some I cheer against a little more than others, but I like every program.
Okay.
I attend in the Division I's. You can't put a finger on the Cornell big C on their chest in the corner, right? You can't understand the passion from the Minnesota crowd, or the Husker crowd, or the Hawkeyes. And some of my favorite moments is like going down in St. Louis down to what's the they call that where they eat downtown, the walkway. What's that called down there? Shoes leaving me. Union Station.
Union Station, yep.
So you get on Union Station, you got guys that are standing in line that are big business guys, you know, businessmen, millionaires. They got cauliflower ears. They got the little bald tummies that are rock hard. And they're sitting there in an Iowa State hat and a Hawkeye hat, and they're fighting their waitress for which table they're going to sit at. You know, and they're just getting ready for the blood round and the placing round. And so, I mean, I just love the college atmosphere and the how they place the tickets for those rounds. And so it's like Bill said, just a love for the sport. And it's pretty awesome. March Madness, right? So
yeah, definitely. Okay, Gatorade or Powerade?
Gatorade.
Yeah, I never thought of it.
Any color?
What's that?
Orange.
Can you go pick one? Orange?
Lime.
Okay. The old
I remember my favorite memory of Gatorade is the summers in the 90s when they came in the glass bottles. And when they touched your lips in the glass bottles, like kids today dripping out of that plastic bottle, it's not even close to the glass bottle days.
I agree. Popsicles or dilly bars?
Dilly bars.
Dilly bars.
Okay. Any flavor?
The red ones.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate. You can't miss chocolate.
Okay. Give me 3 characteristics that all wrestlers need to have, Toby.
Guts. Character. And then obviously just good decision makers. Because when you think about 50-50 on positions to win the position, you make some crucial decisions in those moments. And so making your room realistic and using your character and your gutsy moments to win those 50-50 positions, I think is just your decision making, just like a quarterback, right? You always talk about the IQ of the quarterback and whether they turn the ball over or their percentage rates. And I think in wrestling, you're the quarterback of every play. And so I just, that's where my mind rests with that.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say one thing. We've asked this question to a lot of people, right? And one thing that's always in the back of my mind is they got to be problem solvers. And that's probably what Toby says is probably as close as to what I've in my mind. Not that I'm always right or ever right, but that's one thing I always think about. They got to be problem solvers and that's where they come into play, right? A lot of times is those 50-50 positions or how are you to get out from a guy like Matt on top, right? I got to solve that problem, you know. Thank God I don't, but if I did, I'd be happy.
If you've ever seen Matt Meuleners crossbody Turk, oh my gosh, it just hurt. I mean, it hurts just sitting there watching it go down. That poor soul that's underneath there.
Yeah, and he was doing it to heavyweights.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't like he was just some guy that didn't have bowling balls for shoulders. You know, he's a skeleton. And Meuleners made it look like it was just, you know, hot knife through butter.
Yeah, no doubt. No, how about you, Matt?
They gotta be resilient, have a good work ethic, and just be pretty tough. Just be tough.
Are you a mama's boy or a rebel?
Mama's boy. I'm the baby.
Mama's boy.
Be surprised how many wrestlers are mama's boys. I mean, we've asked a lot of people. Dan Gable said he was a mama's boy. Okay, here's a tough one. Have you seen the UFO?
Doesn't Scott Braun drive one of those?
Oh yeah, that's pretty funny. No, usually I say, you know, the unidentified flying objects is a guy getting souffled you weren't paying attention to over the other side of the gym. Yep.
No, kudos to Scotty. He's obviously an All-American at SDSU, but if you know, big heart officiating for us every weekend. He does all levels. So I did tell him I'm gonna somehow weave you in tonight. So that's how UFO obviously was a good moment.
That's pretty good. Major League Baseball or NFL?
Oh, no brainer. Baseball.
I'm NFL.
Yeah. Fast paced or consistently slow?
Fast pace.
Yeah, fast pace is better.
Okay. Physical or mental athlete?
Mental.
Mental.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
You're pulling on the heartstrings here. The hunting season is more productive when it's 45, 50 degrees and Thanksgiving than minus 50 tomorrow. So being the hunter, I kind of enjoy the pheasants and the archery hunting when I'm away from people and thinking about my athletes and prepping for their seasons. It's like sitting in a tree and around Thanksgiving time that's my jam.
Good one. Dan Gable or Cale Sanderson?
Do you know the only North Dakota guy to ever beat Cale Sanderson?
No, I do not.
Scott Braun beat Cale Sanderson.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Wrestling fact. Yep. So
I'm gonna have to give Scotty.
So I gotta go Cale Sanderson.
Okay.
Because Scotty was a college wrestled with me in college, so he's a legend.
You mean Cale or Scotty? No.
Both. Scott wrestled both Cale and I.
Okay.
But Cale was my roommate, so.
Okay. Favorite number?
1.
11.
11. What's the 11? 2 1s?
That was my base.
I was
my
gonna say
number.
that's Matt's 2 1s.
Yeah.
He had one twice there. At the
Got a lot of wrestlers that always say 2 for takedown. Yeah. Okay. Best wrestler you ever wrestled?
Best wrestler, worst week of your life. Go ahead, Matt.
God, that's a tough one. Travell, he was pretty good. Travell, he was the best guy I wrestled. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I wrestled Brian Schneider and TJ Williams back-to-back weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was one of those deals. You can tell the caliber of a D2 kid and a D1 kid with NCC at the time. And I think after the first period, I was about tapped out, and they were just getting their motor started. There's just a different DNA, a different oxygen level to the cellular body, and they just kept getting better and climbing the rope. And you're just like, they're coming, and there's nothing you can do. And obviously the red green leg band, the numbers were going up in their favor, and now it's back to back, and it was an ugly week of my life.
Well, I tell you what, I wrestled at SDSU guy it was my last college match ever. And Chad Lemaire at NDSU, man, was he a strong guy. I was not a full 90 pounder by any means, 190, and comes into the duel, and he takes me down and just rips me a new one, but couldn't turn me. Then I Peterson roll him and put him for 5, hold him there and hold him there for the whole first period. So I'm up 5-2. Bucky Mon has me picked down. I stand up, and he does the old kick your knee up the butt and chin drop you. And he chin dropped me midair, and I hit my head, and I don't remember the match. The only reason I know it is because I watched it on tape later. I was done, out, and wrestled, basically got my butt kicked the rest of the match with a concussion. And so Chad did a good job. I think he was a 2-time national champ or something like that.
Yep.
But I wrestled Terry and Troy Steiner many, many times, and they were not the toughest wrestler I ever wrestled. I used to kick their ass. They know that. No, I today they could kick mine back. And they watch this show very often, but no, it's funny how you remember those things. Okay. Any habit you learned in wrestling that you still do today?
I think just showing up, like that you can't. And I think from the employee standpoint, just, today's world, like I'm just a believer that you show up, good things are going to happen. So I just have that perseverance. When my feet hit the floor, you're going to get the best version of me no matter where I go that day. And that's one thing that wrestling's taught me, and I've always appreciated. And sometimes maybe it's good or bad, especially raising kids of my own, that I don't understand how they don't think like that sometimes. because just the drive behind a wrestler and the way that you operate and the way that you think, it maybe seems over the top or unbalanced, but at the same time, like, I'm going to be there. And it's the old Lombardi thing, you're 15 minutes. If there's a meeting, I'm 15 minutes there early. It drives some people crazy, but that's just what wrestling taught me.
Yeah, I would say how I work out. Like I need to get like a full sweat, like ride the Airdyne for like an hour at a time, like is my go-to workout if it's not wrestling related. And I can't help myself. My wife's like, well, like, why do you like when I do go out for a run, it's like, well, I ran as fast as I could for, 20 or 30 minutes. Like I ran 15 minutes one direction as fast as I could, and I ran as fast as I could back. And that was my workout. So she thinks it's a little odd that I work out that way, but you don't know any different in wrestling. Like you're expected to do your best and try your hardest. So that's how I work out all the time.
I like that. That's a good one. I always say that I weigh in still every morning. And another thing, and I like that about doing things hard, I don't think a good workout is good unless I sweat. And so, and that's from wrestling. I really want to break a good sweat. I think that's a good one. Okay. Which show could you be on? Storage Wars, Survivor, The Voice, or Jeopardy?
Storage Wars.
Survivor. When I did cut weight to 197, I was pretty good at not eating. So I feel like I'd be the guy that would toss the food out and, try and, starve my competitors out a little bit more. Just be tougher than them.
Awesome. Cat, bird, or dog?
Dog.
I got a cat, so I got to say cat, but I like dogs more.
Okay. Because you'd be the first wrestler that'd say cat. I didn't know you would have said. Okay. If you could be a fly on a wall in some other coach's room, whose wrestling room would you have spied on? Or could or would spy on?
Steve Kessler.
Ooh. Back out to Sturgis.
I'd say either the old, some of those Iowa rooms in the 90s when they were on that run for like close to like 8, 9, or 10, or it'd be interesting to get into Penn State's room and see how they're doing things right now, or how they have been.
Yep. Okay. This is always a tough one, but can you name one phrase you use in coaching that you can't use anywhere else? It's rated PG, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of cliches, a lot of coaching lingo, vernacular out there, but
yeah,
I can't think of one that I would.
You could say on here. I've had many of them, but that go through my mind. I'm going, I can't even say it myself, I don't think. But anything, when you talk about, hips in, or you talk about, certain things you can't say otherwise, the old butt drag, things that you don't yell out even anymore. You can't even do that. But
yeah, the old honeymooner days, when the people used to clarify the honeymooner move or whatever that is.
Right.
So.
Right. I was told a joke going way back about the putting a guy in a spladle and how he got out of it. And some old coach might tell you those jokes, but it's funny. No, very good, guys. No, I think that, the wrestling community is tight, and we have so many, good things going back to coaching philosophy. Can you mention a couple of the coaches that brought you guys up through the programs and basically solidified your guys' coaching philosophy? How about you, Toby, first? Name some of your.
I was coached by Rick Jensen in high school. Obviously, he was a national champ for SDSU and five-time state champ for Watertown High School. So I had him during my formative years. And one thing that I took from Coach Jensen was like his photographic memory. Like he just a dictaphone a couple times to remind us and then bring us back to kind of fruition on a Monday. But I was always amazed how he could watch, hundreds of matches on a weekend in an individual tournament, and then he could bring it back and talk and put us in those situations. He can remember everybody's where they can get better in those moments. And he just had a photographic memory, but then he could articulate it on Monday in a very productive way. So that's kind of where I formed. That's probably one of the gifts that I have. I can do that. But I think it's because of the hours of modeling that I saw and how he went about it. So, and then I had Mike Ingalls, who was coaching at SDSU for Lyle. So he came out my last 2 years before he passed. And then I had Lyles at SDSU. And then Pat Tim up at Northern. And then I was with Rocky too, when Rocky kind of took over. And then, Sean Lewis was my assistant. I actually brought Sean Lewis out from Elk Point Jefferson to Aberdeen Central as my assistant. And then Rocky came in the phase when he came a grad assistant after myself. So like we said, small world, pick the brains of a lot of guys there. Obviously Bob Hirsch was brought up tonight too. I mean, he's a good friend of mine too. And I officiated college for, I think, 6 to 7 years before I started a academy here in Sioux Falls. I've had Metro Wrestling Academy since 2015. So, being around coaches at that time too, from, Dwayne Ingalls that wrestled SU and Chance Stosher, All-American Augie that helped me at the academy those years. And then, obviously my dad that wrestled for Watertown. My dad's kind of one of those stories where he didn't go out till, later in his career. Marv Sherrill kind of pulled him out of the hallway because he had wide shoulders. And he ended up, getting runner-up. He got Hines from Miller out, beat him. My dad was a runner-up at his senior year then. He had worked to that point, and then he was all-conference wrestler. And I think he qualified for nationals twice at Northern. So my dad's a Northern State grad as well, and then coached out in Pierce. So it's just, like I said, the small world and the community that we come from. So my philosophy has been formed by a lot of those guys. I've just been fortunate enough to be around them and listen and learn and grow. And so now I am here today. And now I have 4 daughters, but I have a 6th grade daughter that wrestles. And so now I get to travel with her, and it's kind of nice as I get to watch her wrestle and also get to recruit at the same time, especially she's on the women's side too. So, and she does a good job. She loves it. And so I'm just encouraged that I have kind of that pass off at least happening in the sport with all girls. So anyways.
Well, that's pretty cool. How about you, Matt? Throw out a few guys.
Brian Clark and Dennis Stokes. Dennis was my first elementary coach. Brian Clark was our assistant coach through the high school. My high school had a lot of turnover at the head coaching position. But Dennis and BC were there the whole time. And then at Northern, Coach Tim, Rocky, Chaz, Cale Corneman, Marcus Hilario, those guys, they had a big impact. And then when I graduated, Mark Manning, Brian Snyder, Tony Ursland, that the staff that was at Nebraska my first year, I still talked to Ursland a fair amount. He was kind of more overseeing the big guys, so I worked with him a lot, and then just worked with Manning and Snyder for the 4 years I was there and learned a lot from them as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's quite the bunch of names. How about you, Bill? Throw a few names of yours again.
Well, of course, yeah, Coach Forty.
Got to get him on here.
Was pretty instrumental in probably keeping me alive in high school. So and I've learned a lot from a lot of other coaches throughout the years. He probably affected my life the most. But when you just talk about there's things that I learned from guys that you dealt with too, right? I mean, Monty Trusty was. Milo was one of the first camps I ever went to. Just a lot of that stuff stuck with me forever. I remember it like it was yesterday. So Mark Pazernick, we coached together back when he was coaching the boys, and we've worked together a little bit with the girls. That's his deal with it. But and I'll actually throw another one out. Bill Getty from Superior, Wisconsin. I mean, he's been coaching in Wisconsin for over 50 years for sure. And, we had a lot of fun over there, so, and learned a lot, we went through a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of them out there. They all, touch our lives. And, in my case, it was, and, I was really lucky to be able to share a lot of that with with at least one kid, so, if it wasn't for the sport of wrestling, our lives would all be very different.
So true. Nope. I got so much appreciation for you guys. You guys are still in the fight, getting it out there and making sure other people are working hard and and driving to what their goals are. It's pretty awesome. Well, guys, we've reached that hour, and I do appreciate you guys being on. Any last comments from you, Toby, as we finish out tonight? And then
just kind of the education on where the women are headed. The National Wrestling Coach Association says that once you get to like 40 teams, then you have that break apart. So like Division III, if you see the addition of the NCAA women's programs added, they're already over 40 teams. And so us in Division I, Division II, you got the 4 Division I's, the Hawkeyes and the Presbyterian. There's 2 more. And then there's about 20. We were like the 24th school, Division II. It's like Fort Hays State, Adams State, I think, is added the last 30, 40 days. So Division II is going to pop here. But once they get to that 40 teams, that's when the break apart's going to happen. So you're going to see the WCCW this first year here still in March. And then the first NCAA championships was hopefully you're going to see like the men, the ESPN, the coverage that they're going to get is going to be hopefully a year from now in the NCAA Division I, II, and III will be together. So this class of 23, 24, I think you're going to see them wrestling all classes together. But eventually, because of scholarships that are available, that there's going to be a distinguished break apart that's going to happen. So I just want to kind of put that out there as you're watching the growth of women's wrestling, that the graphics that they're saying that, you at least need to get 6 kids rostered. You need 9 competitions, and that's not always easy. Just because you say you're adding a women's program doesn't mean you're going to meet the criteria and can be in the tournament. So you really got to work hard and make sure your due diligence is in place to set the stage for those females that want to be in the NCAA platform. And the nice thing about that is once they're done, like the men, the RTCs that are happening, they will then, transition that April, May and get ready for world teams and, get down with Terry Steiner and, be on a contact list. And, but I think they have now an opportunity to be a student athlete, an NCAA All-American, but then still reach their international goals like the men and Matt has done, et cetera. So just want to kind of throw that out there as a concluding point. So
definitely.
Yeah, that is great information. We look forward to you coming up and wrestling here in Jamestown or 30 miles south of me and probably
they're on my legal pad right now to reach out and get them scheduled, but we're waiting on this NSIC basketball schedule. So I think Matt alluded to, he talked to me the other day about probably a Thursday, Sunday will kind of be the look for the duels based on the basketball schedules. So you'll see us on the North Dakota area or down here interchangeably as well in that Thursday, Sunday afternoon events. So
great.
Yeah. Well, I'll do some traveling. My boy is a senior this year, and so I'll definitely catch you guys next year a ton. I'll be all over the place. But how about you, Matt? Any last words?
No, just thanks for having me. I appreciate it, letting us get our name out there a little bit more and, putting us out there for us. I appreciate it.
No, definitely. I think it's a mecca of an area for wrestling. That southeast corner of South Dakota is so close, like I mentioned, to Nebraska and Iowa and Minnesota and North Dakota. And you just got great opportunities, and I hope it explodes for you guys. Definitely.
Thank you.
And Bill,
thanks, guys.
Well, we hadn't talked anything. Let's just talk for about 2 seconds. You guys want to log off, whatever, Bill and I'll discuss some things. If you guys want to stay on, you feel free. We're just going to talk a little bit about what's happening. I do appreciate you guys coming on. Yep.
Yeah. Well, anything else I have to say? Well, one thing for those guys, and I know they've said it lots of times, and they're going to say it again over the years, and it'll just be beat Augie, right? We got to get that out there because that's going to be a goal for everybody. But no, it's been great having you guys on, and we look forward to seeing the women's the program grow. The men's program. I was really excited when Matt was introduced as the coach. So we're gonna there's very few people probably that follow the D2 wrestling as much as I do at the moment. But so I watch. Everybody else was watching the football games this weekend. I was watching the Midwest Classic, and so it's a great program, a great division, and it's a great conference. I hope that obviously we're losing one team out of the conference, and hopefully we get that replaced with another team. I hope it's close to us, but it'll be fun to see what happens there.
I do want to shout out that since it is Dakota Grappler, that I've got Ray Ogden out of North Dakota. That'll be a Cougar from Century. And then I got committed out of Spearfish, Mariah Krusky. And then we've got Zoe Adam from Canton, who's
really? Zoe did there too, okay.
rated nationally. And then we got Maya Erickson from Brookings. So we're trying to get the Dakota girls, recruited an opportunity. And then we got some Wyoming, Minnesota, and we got 6 states represented right now. So it'll kind of be a melting pot of those kids coming together and philosophies and, a lot of new sanctioning programs, but just kind of a hard blue collar work ethic and get in and, like I said, get our hand raised. So anyways, just want to shout out to the Dakota girls that'll be in a women's program. So,
I'm going to just throw something there. This is kind of funny. I grew up in a Class A school in big time in Fargo, right? So, we'd go out and we'd wrestle we'd see some Class B schools every once in a while, but not a whole lot. But those, I always talked about those kids that were in, they were farm tough, right? I mean, those are, well, now I live in a farming community. I don't think we've had, 5 farm tough boys in the last 20 years, right? It's just funny how it seems to work. But the girls that are on these teams, these are the 4-H girls that are, throwing calves on the weekend, and they are farm tough. And, and I see it on, the Carrington team. I see it on some of these, been to, a few other tournaments. And so if that's the kind of athlete you're looking for that can wrestle, I see him out there. Feel free to reach out.
I think Matt knows as well as I do. We got this thing called the questionnaire tab at the top of our website. That really saves us a lot of data digging. Just do the questionnaire.
Yeah.
We can see a lot of stuff from there. So,
yeah.
Good deal. Definitely. Well, thanks again, guys.
Yeah.
So, Bill, high school wise, we kind of had this week break, in North Dakota. South Dakota got a little bit of wrestling done last weekend. And so, I tell you what, I was on the college scene. I was watching a lot of college stuff was going on. The Midwest Classic, Mary had some great, results. I think they were pretty pleased with what happened down there. Let's give us a little rundown of some college stuff that you watched this last week.
Yeah. Well, first of all, obviously we had a little break on the high school side, and it's, it's too bad it happened, right? We lost a Linton holiday tournament. Girls lost the Ashley tournament, the border brawl, which was going to be a big event. Lots of teams from North Dakota and South Dakota. I was really looking forward to going to that. Valley City rescheduled until this coming Friday. I do think that Carrington is going to go to that, but the weather doesn't look good for that day either. So it's tough to lose all those. Not to mention most teams probably, lost 5 days of practice. So there was it's a tough time, but
Century lost their big Wyoming tournament.
Oh yeah. Yep. Century didn't make it to the Pat Weedy. So
they used to get 8 to 10 matches. That's about, a fifth of their wrestling season, right. 40 to 50 matches. And all of a sudden 1/5 is gone one weekend. And it was kind of a team builder always going down there because they face tough competition, but yet it's people they don't see and they just go out and wrestle hard.
And Century's had a lot of great success at that event. So yeah, I know that's been a good event for them. So yeah, it's tough on the high school side to lose that. So now everybody kind of, most of the people in North Dakota are going to be rolling right into the Rumble and then the Rotary. Right. So
if Valley City happens, that'll be one heck of a tournament. I'm talking Bismarck High's there, Williston. You're going to, but if it doesn't,
Lisbon.
Yep.
So So it's too bad we had that happen, but I can't believe it hasn't happened more in the past, to be honest with you, this time of the year. But we've always had. It seems like Linton's always been really cold that weekend, but we've never got snowed out. So
you're right.
But anyway, we go to the college scene. Midwest Classic, largest tournament in the country for Division II, and I would include that as including the national tournament, right? I don't know what they ended up with because I know they lost some teams. Northern was not able to make it. They couldn't get there due to weather. Shadron did not make it due to weather, and I'm not sure how many other teams are supposed to be there that didn't, but I don't know, 43, 44 teams probably there.
Yep.
Definitely north of 40. Great tournament. It is a grind. It's 2 days. Guys come out of there, they get done with those, those 2 days. If they get into the placing rounds, they've really, really been.
I've looked at the day 2 participants. I was really looking at the names there, and there was a barn burner. Some guys got basically knocked out before day 2 in the placings, and great names.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think the guys that would, and the coaches would tell you the same thing. That's the kind of tournament that prepares you for a national tournament. But you gotta come through there healthy. North Dakota had Reese Barnard obviously made the finals. Lost in the finals to a good kid. Max Bruss
I missed that finals match. It ended up like 9-2. What kind of happened there? Do you remember exactly?
Yeah, I think, he had a little problem on the bottom. I think we had a tough top wrestler there. So,
Okay.
it's Reese had a good tournament, looked good, beat some good kids. So, and then Max Bruss at 184 or 74.
Bruss is 74.
74 made the finals and won a nice match here against the Upper Iowa. I think it was our Indianapolis kid. Anyway, so that's a good tournament. Yeah, they had some other kids that had a fair number of matches but fell short of placing. But kids that had 3, 4, 5 matches. So at one point, Mary was in third place on Saturday. I don't remember where they ended up. I'm sure they were in the top 10. I can't remember where they ended up. So, but they had a good tournament.
Some reason fifth kind of rings a bell.
I don't know if it was that high. But it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah. They had a good tournament. Something to be proud of. So, I see there's a little change up in their lineup. I don't know. I see that. Oh boy, now I'm drawing a blank. New kid not new kid. Leo Mashinsky down. He's 65 pounder last year. He's at 49. And then I think that he wrestled in the Minot duel at 49. Must have been the first time down. And then he wrestled there at 49. So that'll be very interesting to see how that works out. I mean, that's a big change. And then I know that Huber was not wrestling that weekend. So, and I don't know why. I saw he was in the corner. I don't know if he's banged up or what, but besides that, it was kind of their normal lineup. So,
right. Now we haven't talked much about the NDSU. Now they just lost to Missouri.
Yeah. Missouri's a tough team.
Oh man, they looked really good. I kind of watched a good part of that. And it's amazing. A really nice team Missouri does. They did win against Buffalo and against Little Rock. They kind of took a thumping. Minnesota looked really good in that duel against them. I don't think Minnesota's lost a duel yet.
No, Minnesota is undefeated in duels. Yep. They came really close to losing South Dakota State though.
Yeah.
But they're not really, I mean, they're a good duel team. They're not, their top guys, I think, aren't like Brayton Lee, obviously lost to Jared,
losses, right?
Yeah, and he's coming off injury, and maybe as the season comes along, he'll keep picking up. He lost a match to Oklahoma State, and so, but some of those kids are falling down just a little bit from what I expected, and I'm sure what they expected, to be honest with you, but they're a good squad, and they'll probably qualify 10 for the national tournament, and if Gable comes back, they can win it.
Yeah, and that's still in the air.
I think there's a possibility. I think the chances are slimmer than what I would have thought 6 months ago, but I mean, because he's going to score 25 points or whatever, So, and if Brayton Lee at 57, which is kind of an up in the air weight class, if he all of a sudden starts clicking and you get two guys that make the finals and Patrick McKee, takes third. I mean, if he loses, he never loses on the wrestleback. So, he could take third, and they have a lot of guys that could play. So, yeah, I mean, Gophers they look okay. So.
Right. Now, I don't know if you paid close attention to that Nebraska duel against SDSU a little bit, but the guy that kind of surprises me that for SDSU that's been struggling is Carlson.
Yeah, he's losing close matches. He's losing 3-2 type matches, losing to guys like the Minnesota backup, which was he wrestled a great match, and Clay's had a couple losses out in
Vegas
and at Reno, or at Vegas, the Cliff Keen. Yeah, no, it was at Vegas. Yep, the Cliff Keen. So I don't get that worried, but one of these you start wondering about a little bit, and he's a tough kid from a tough family that are just really hard-nosed wrestlers, but the longer these careers go on, I think we're finding that, 4 or 5 years is plenty. I mean, and you wonder how that affects some of these guys, but he's not getting blown out, right? I mean, he's losing 1-point matches. He's losing really close matches. So, I mean, I beginning of the year, I thought he's a legitimate title contender, to be honest with you.
Yep.
So
I thought so too. And then I thought Sloan has been looking good for SDSU.
Yeah, Tanner's. Yeah, he's good. He's really good on top. He's a good wrestler. Tanner Cook is lightning in a bottle. He can pin you from anywhere. He showed that this weekend again. He hit a cement mixer. It was sweet. He kind of fade go one way, went the other way. It's awesome. I mean,
that Bubba Wilson match, would it take 30 seconds? He's that explosive at times.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, it's amazing when you watch guys. It's like they've never seen tape. It's like, why would you shoot a head outside single on this guy? You're guaranteed to go flying. So he is so fun to watch. Yeah. And sometimes I think they're stubborn, right? They're like, well, I can stop that. That ain't gonna work on me, but he works on he is worth the price of admission. Yep.
And then the news for Berwick has made pretty big news. It's been all over now.
Yeah.
And I still don't quite understand it all. I don't think anybody really does at the big level, because basically two different teams are saying two different things. And
Andy Hamilton wrote a pretty good article
for Flow.
For Flow. And Andy worked pretty hard on it. He reached out to everybody you could possibly reach out to. I think the only ones that probably didn't get back to him were some Wisconsin
decision makers.
Yeah, I think it's known that if Wisconsin signed off on a form, Kyle's wrestling. I mean, I think that's the case. I do think that I don't think it's the NCAA's decision at this point. The NCAA's decision was, well, he wasn't within that timeline, so you're not eligible. You can't, but there is a path. The really crazy part is if he would have transferred
later
today, if he would have transferred in October, he'd be eligible second semester. That's the crazy part. That's why, and that and the fact that Bono says, well, we want him to wrestle. We want him to compete. Well, then just sign the form. It's over, right? I mean, you can't, that it's kind of crazy, but Kyle's stuck in the middle. He's going to make the best of it.
And he's going to work.
He'd be supported by his family and his friends. And if he wrestles 20 matches this year unattached at open tournaments, he's just going to get a little bit better, lose a year of eligibility. And it would be bad. It'd be a shame, but, he's going to be a great teacher and a coach and a parent someday. And this is all going to be part of it. But I hope we get to see him in in the varsity singlet, because they need him, to be honest with you. He's going to be he's a two-time NCAA qualifier. He's probably going to qualify again, but he'd have to get in the lineup pretty quick to get some matches too. So.
Right. And you think is he going to be at the same weight, you think?
33. Yep, absolutely. He's been wrestling 33 in open tournaments.
Right. That's what I thought.
I don't know, maybe 10 matches. I think he's 10-0 or 14-0.
Yeah, he has not lost a match yet so far.
Yeah, he beat Jor Volk, world champion, this year. Who's obviously, I think I probably mentioned that before, but he's got he's Carrington ties. His mom's from Carrington. And so he beat Jor in a tournament out and beat him pretty handedly. I don't know, 9-1 maybe.
At Wyoming.
Yeah, at Wyoming. Yep. So,
I remember that.
So he's wrestling good.
I'm hoping that, the Big Ten schedule is coming up here not too long. We're going to start seeing more matches come January. I know that. And
I think Northern wrestles a makeup duel with Concordia on the 6th of January. Okay. I think it's the 6th. So, and then you'll start seeing all the rest.
Southern Scuffle. I know NDSU goes down to that in the beginning of January, but January 1-2-ish, if I remember right. Always trying to, I should put up a bunch of links on the top of my screen so I can look at some of this stuff.
Yeah, sometimes I do, but I wasn't I came flying in, obviously.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. I tell you what, I knew you knew a lot about the two guys we had on, and Matt and Toby did a great job. And I think
absolutely,
I was so happy to hear, Toby's a great guy at Aberdeen, really respects what he's doing there, and him going down there to, he's started the Metro. I don't know if you know that, basically a club in Sioux Falls, because they needed a wrestling club. Imagine a city the size of Sioux Falls that really never had a wrestling club.
Right.
Had some smaller ones, but you start doing something like Matt Pack does, or the Gorillas, or some of the smaller schools, and he's done a great job, and he's had that now for about 7 years. So,
right, yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, those guys, I'm excited. They'll do a great job there, and I think that the university is going to give them a ton of support. I think there's a lot of money in that market, so they'll be competitive, I think, and they are walking into the fire. I mean, that's the toughest conference in the country.
That's
toughest conference in the country, and it's the toughest conference in the country, and it's the toughest region in the for qualifying for the national tournament. So, and they both know that, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Toby's in a different situation with the women,
right?
But Matt obviously knows that, right? He knows that he's coming in, and he basically said it, right? I can't just get 10 guys to fill a lineup, because
he wants
every single week is tougher than heck, and it's top to bottom. They're all gonna fight you. So, they know that going. I think that Sioux Falls did a great job, picking coaches. So.
Definitely. Okay. Well, good deal. Well, again, guys, go out and promote the sport. I think Bill and I are ready to call it and go manage some of this cold. Stay out of the cold, guys. Here's I'll tell Bill something behind the scenes. So, but guys, you guys have a great night. We were on here for an hour and a half. I'm glad you guys could come watch. We'll talk some wrestling again. We'll get some other coaches on. I've got quite a few guys kind of in the pipeline, but just waiting for the right time to get them in. We're going to have quite a few of these coming this spring. So you guys have a good night. Bill, any last words?
Yeah. Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody. We will we'll see you at the Rumble.
Yep.
And maybe we'll talk before then, I guess. I don't know. But Rumble's next, coming up on everybody's schedule, I guess, except for obviously Valley City. So
right. Okay. Well, awesome. We'll see you there for sure. Guys, have a great night.
Yep.
Take care.